Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the most famous events in history to uncover this massive, total paradigm shift about how success actually works. I want you to picture it. The California Gold Rush, 1848. Thousands of people stampeding west with this singular, highly romantic dream to strike it rich. They're picturing themselves hunched over a river, washing gravel in a pan, and then, boom, seeing that bright yellow flash. Just one lucky nugget could wipe out debts, buy land, and turn a totally ordinary person into an absolute legend. It's a wildly powerful image, right?
Okay, let's dive into this. Because the reality on the ground, it was drastically different from the myth. If we ask who actually got rich, the answer pretty abruptly shatters that romantic image. The harsh, unglamorous truth is that most miners didn't become wealthy at all. In fact, a huge chunk of them went home completely broke, or honestly even worse off than when they started. They were facing brutal competition, disease, sheer exhaustion, freezing nights, only to realize the odds were heavily stacked against them.
Part 1. The Myth of the Miner. It's romantic, but incredibly harsh.
See, the miner's life looked super simple from the outside, you know? Go to California, dig, get rich. But that simple story was basically just killer marketing. As the easy surface gold dried up, mining became highly technical, exhausting, and crazy expensive. The miners weren't just battling nature, the real hidden enemy was their own daily expenses. And the economics of this era, they deliver an absolute gut punch. Picture a miner working for months, and hey, he successfully finds $300 worth of gold. Sounds like a total victory. But then you calculate that he literally spent $400 on travel, food, basic tools, and shelter just to stay alive during that time. So on paper, he found gold, but in reality, he lost money. It perfectly illustrates one of the absolute most crucial lessons in business and life. Revenue is not profit. Simply finding the shiny object is not the same as actually building wealth.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the contrast between two fundamentally different mindsets. While all these miners were totally distracted by the jackpot, another group of people was playing a completely different game. The miner kept asking, where is the scarce, hidden resource? But the merchant asked a way more practical question, what does every miner need? The miner's demand was based entirely on a huge gamble, on uncertain luck. The merchant's demand, though, that was entirely predictable.
Part 2. The merchant's winning game. Supplying the chase.
These merchants were the invisible winners of the gold rush. They provided the picks, the pans, the tents, the food, the boots. They literally just positioned themselves right next to the demand instead of being blinded by the prize. The sheer genius of the merchant model is they didn't have to gamble on whether there was actually gold under a specific rock. They simply sold to the gamblers. They didn't need every single miner to succeed. They only needed every miner to try. To really grasp the power of this shovel-selling model, you've got to look at Samuel Brandon. He was a merchant who understood the rush before almost anyone else. Instead of digging, he opened a store to sell supplies to these dreamers. And the results were just staggering. His store pulled in massive profits, reportedly up to $5,000 a day. And remember, guys, that's in 1840s money. Unbelievable. He didn't ignore the gold. He just realized that gold fever itself creates massive, ultra-reliable demand.
And you really can't talk about this era without bringing up Levi Strauss. Now, the myth says he went to California and instantly invented blue jeans for the miners. But the real history is actually a story of gradual, steady service. He moves out to San Francisco in the early 1850s, opens a dry goods business in 1853 to serve the local stores of the American West. It actually wasn't until 1873 that he and a tailor named Jacob Davis patented those famous copper-riveted pants. Strauss wasn't out there chasing the gold. He built a rock-solid business serving the practical, everyday needs of the people doing the grueling work.
Part 3. Speculation versus service. We're looking at two totally different games here.
So on one side, you've got speculation, and on the other, you have service. The world always praises the star, right? The person holding the gold nugget. But massive success is so often built right in the unglamorous parts of the system, supporting the people trying to become stars. To really get why this works so brilliantly, we have to look at the psychology of a rush. A gold rush is just as much a psychological event as an economic one. People aren't rushing in because they calmly calculated the probabilities. No way. They're driven by hope, envy, fear of missing out, impatience, and this wild fantasy of sudden transformation. And that emotional urgency, it makes people incredibly eager to open their wallets for supplies. When people truly believe, this is my shot, they massively underestimate the difficulty and gladly hand over their cash for any tools that promise to help them win.
This brings us to a crystal clear contrast. Speculation is basically betting on an uncertain outcome,
like buying land, hoping there's gold under it, or launching a restaurant, hoping people actually show up. Service, on the other hand, is identifying a real, tangible need and providing the solution. A business built on service asks really strategic questions. They're asking, what keeps breaking? What wastes people's time? Or what do people absolutely need every single day?
Let's look at what answering those questions actually looks like in practice. Selling boots, selling tents, selling durable work pants, selling food to workers, selling transportation. Let's be totally honest with each other. These are incredibly boring businesses, but boring usually equates to permanent and profitable. Hunger, shelter, safety, these aren't trendy needs that are going to fade away. They are permanent human necessities. A miner dreaming of gold still has to eat lunch, right?
So the crucial point is simply this. A miner who fails still bought the shovel. That is the absolute beauty of the merchant model. You are not betting on their success. You are betting on their effort. They have to buy the necessities, whether they strike it rich or completely go bust.
Part 4, modern-day gold rushes. A repeating pattern.
Now, let's drag this historical framework out of the 1800s and drop it right into the 21st century. Because this isn't just a fun story about California, it is a hardwired, repeating pattern of human behavior. Whenever a new opportunity pops up and a few people win big, the crowd rushes in, and we see the exact same dynamics play out today. And this brilliantly illustrates how the center of any boom always spawns a massive, highly profitable ecosystem. Think about it. When the internet boomed, the obvious prize was making websites, right? But the massive infrastructure opportunity was in hosting, payments, and cybersecurity. With smartphones, it wasn't just about manufacturing the phone. It was all about the ecosystem, the apps, the protective cases, the repair shops. The direct prize attracts the crowd, sure, but the infrastructure supports the crowd.
We can map this directly onto today's headlines. Just look at the glamorous prizes everyone is chasing right now. In tech startups, the founders are the miners, but the infrastructure, shovels, are cloud services, legal, and recruiting. In the creator economy, millions of people want to be famous influencers, but the steady, reliable money, that's in editing software, cameras, and online courses. And with artificial intelligence, the ultimate modern gold rush, right? Everyone wants to build the smartest model. But the real shovels are data cleaning, security, and integration. It's exactly like the 1849 goldfields all over again.
There's actually a mathematical reason why the shovel strategy works so much better, which we call the crowded prize problem. When a prize is super obvious, the competition becomes absolutely brutal. For the miners, more competition means much smaller margins, because hey, the same river can only physically hold so many people. But for the supplier, more participants actually means a bigger market for tools. The tool seller genuinely benefits from an influx of starry-eyed copycats. More content creators literally just means more microphones sold. It's that simple.
Now, looking at this whole dynamic, it's totally fair to ask the moral question. Are the tool sellers just exploiting these dreamers? Honestly, the truth is that booms naturally attract two very different types of people: helpful builders and exploitative parasites. We see this neutrally reported across pretty much all major economic movements throughout history.
The real distinction comes down to this. Value creation is about providing honest tools at fair prices. A miner genuinely does need a shovel, and providing a good one benefits both sides. Exploitation, on the other hand, is selling false hope to desperate people. Like selling a quote-unquote magic shovel that's basically guaranteed to find gold. Honorable businesses are solving the real, tangible needs created by these huge human movements. They aren't out there selling fake shovels or empty hype.
Part 5, selling yourself the shovels. Taking this from a business strategy to a profound life lesson.
Up until now, we've looked at this purely as an economic or business strategy, but the whole sell the shovels concept actually elevates into an incredibly profound personal life lesson about building a stable foundation. It completely shifts how we should approach our own goals and ambitions. Most people just want the dramatic victory, right? The status, the fame, the overnight success. Let's move to and see how this builds on a personal level, because a truly stable life is built by selling yourself the shovels first. I'm talking about acquiring durable skills, prioritizing your health, building personal discipline, accumulating savings. These are your personal, entirely unglamorous tools, and you absolutely need them before you start blindly chasing any major goal.
Always remember this dynamic. Gold attracts attention, but tools create capacity. Chasing status without building up your personal capacity first is exactly like walking into the freezing mountains to mine for gold without bringing any food or a pickaxe. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
A person who wants freedom but never saves a dime, or who wants massive success but completely ignores building their actual skills, they are just destined to struggle. Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway of this entire explainer. Before chasing the prize, build the tools. Whether you're launching a new business, trying to analyze some massive new tech trend, or really just planning out your own personal growth, you have to look past the blinding glitter of the gold. Study the system, ask what is actually tangibly needed, and build your capacity first.
Because sure, the diggers might occasionally become legends, but the shovel sellers, they are the ones who build lasting foundations. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on as you navigate today's rapidly changing world. In the next big rush, will you be desperately digging for gold, or will you be the one selling the shovels? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it gave you a really powerful new lens to look through.